Hi, my name is Anita Carr and I am one of the authors in this really beautiful book called Unity. I am chapter 11 and my chapter is called Happily Ever After, a Work in Progress. This chapter was inspired by the pivotal point in my life where I kind of was at a crossroads and I needed to make a choice. I was terribly unhappy and I was living the life that I thought I wanted, that I was told would give me my happily ever after, but I wasn't feeling it. And an event occurred during a time where I was really feeling really lost and really lonely, and I only had 3 really small children at the time, and it was like the universe was giving me an opportunity and I really had to decide if I was going to take it or I was going to stay where I was. And both options had very different outcomes, or would have had very different outcomes. And this is the first time that I've actually, I suppose, told this specific story, and it is really personal and it is a little scary to share it because there's a lot of, I suppose, shame or guilt surrounding it. Not that I feel that anymore, but at the time they were the feelings that I really did have. And I know that they're feelings that a lot of women have around leaving their marriage, breaking up a family. I really don't believe in that term. I think you're actually giving your family a gift by choosing your own happiness. So that is what the chapter is about, and I'm going to read for you just a little section of it for you, and then maybe do a bit of a deep dive into some of the things here in the book. I think I'll just start from the beginning. I felt like I was in slow motion, like life was happening around me, but through this dense, murky fog. I could see movement and shadows, yet everything felt so out of reach. I was existing, but I wasn't living. I had no control over what was happening. I was just there, suspended, numb. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I didn't feel like me. I knew this wasn't the life I was meant to be living. You're told the story of meeting a man, falling in love, getting married, having kids, and living happily ever after. We assume that happily ever after just happens. But what if you're still waiting for it to arrive? What if it never comes? Was there any evidence that it even existed? And what was it anyway? Happily ever after. After what? After the expectations of giving everything to everybody, meeting everyone else's needs except our own, after we get left at the end of every day with nothing, day after day. We weren't warned about the feeling of being so nothing. We often paint a picture of our life for the outside world to see, because that's how it appears to be, even in our own mind, how we want it to be. But it's like we trick ourselves into believing that it's true. We push down the feelings that persistently creep up, the questions that keep rising to the surface. Is this it? What if there's more? And those questions were definitely the questions that were playing on my mind at that time were, is this it? This is meant to be everything I've ever wanted. But why was I feeling just so lost and just so not myself? And I didn't feel alive. I did just feel like life was just happening around me. I was going through the everyday, and I did think, well, what if there is more? And I felt, the thing is, like, I felt that there was more. Like my deep intuition, like deep knowing. I knew there was definitely more for me, but I was scared. I was scared of going to go and get that. What would people think of me? How would I do it? I've got 3 young children. I didn't have a regular job. How on earth, like, would I survive? And that's the question that I think a lot of women ask themselves, is how on earth am I meant to do any of this on my own? The thing is, you can though. You really can. I think a lot of the time we stop ourselves, or we put a barrier up for ourselves. And I talk about it in the book about a box, that we kind of put everything into this box and we put it up on the shelf and just label it that, well, this is part of life, this is it, everyone goes through it. But we're stopping ourselves from stepping out of that box. Yes, it is so hard and it's so scary. I've had a rough ride, and to be honest, if I was to actually look back and go through all of the things that I have been through just to get to this point, I think I'd probably cry and not stop crying, because it's been a lot. But I've learnt so much and I've grown so much, and I honestly never thought I would be the version of me that I am right now. And I'm just really, really proud of myself for being brave enough to want more and actually go and get it. And the other part of this story is that I was also diagnosed with ADHD, and that for me was literally this massive identity crisis, because the more and more I read about it, the more I started really questioning like who I was. The symptoms of ADHD, especially in women, are being a bit scatty, talking a lot, being like the life of the party, being disorganized, always running late. And those kind of things I associated with just being me, with just being this, unique version of me, that I was creative. I'd lose track of time because I was so engrossed in something, or I like talking because I'm passionate and I love connecting with people. And so when they were the symptoms of ADHD, I really started questioning, well, who am I then if these are the symptoms of ADHD and I thought that they were just part of my unique personality? Who on earth am I now then? And I think it took a while. It actually really took a while for me to really break that down further. And what I have realized is that it's those parts of me that are affected by ADHD are who make me who I am. Yes, there are a set of symptoms that a lot of women have, but they impact everybody differently, and they impact me in a positive way, really. A lot of them. Some of them really are a massive struggle, and I wish I didn't have to deal with them daily. But a lot of them are really positive. And so I've now learned to embrace those positive aspects of it and love those parts of me and accept those parts of me, rather than it being this negative thing. And it's been really, really enlightening for me, and it makes me feel light knowing that this is the way that I am, this is the way my brain works. I felt very misunderstood, and I was very hard on myself for 37 years before realizing that I was ADHD. And now 4 years on, I now just accept that that is who I am, and I can now speak about it and say, oh, look, I got totally hyper-focused, it's my ADHD, that's why I'm running late, because I started reading this book and started doing this, and I can just very easily say, oh, sorry, that's part of my ADHD. And it's not an excuse, it's literally because my brain works in a totally different way. And I suppose one of the things I also just wanted to talk about before we finish up is ADHD and how it does present itself in women. And the thing that tipped me kind of over the edge and made me start thinking that I either had a brain tumor or just something was really, really wrong with me is the level of overwhelm. I was literally feeling like I could not go any further in my day by 8 o'clock in the morning. I was done. I literally had no energy. I flew off the handle emotionally. It just wasn't right. It didn't feel normal. And being overwhelmed to that extent isn't normal. And yes, everybody gets overwhelmed at certain points in their life, but when it's a regular occurrence, and for me it was daily, there's something else there, that there's something that isn't working right in your brain. And that is something that I really do think any women who are maybe listening and they do feel that level of overwhelm, and you just think it's normal because you're a mum, you're a woman, you're a wife, you've got so many things you've got to juggle, so this overwhelm is normal. It's not. And whether it is ADHD or whether it's just anxiety or whether it's hormones, or there could be so many different things, that feeling of overwhelm is not something that you should have to live with every single day. And being a woman, like I said before, scatty, chatty, forgetful, all those kind of things, yes, they are associated with being a woman, which is, a bit crappy, but there are reasons for it when you do realize that you do have ADHD, and it all makes so much more sense. And I think just me getting a diagnosis, it really helped me understand and just truly accept myself for who I am, and actually step into the most authentic version of myself that I ever have been. And it feels really good. And the fact that I'm here talking about me being in a book with all these other beautiful women, if somebody had told me this 4 years ago or even a year ago, I don't think I'd believe them, because it's been a long road, and it's been tough, but it's been a lot of growth, and it really has been rewarding. And I can now say that I love who I am, and I am ready and open to whatever opportunities, whatever happens from here on in for me, because I know that everything that I choose from now on will be aligned to the authentic version of me, not a version of me that existed for everybody else.